Hey everyone, I'm working to hit 1,000 subscribers, and I need your help to get there. If you enjoy the content, please hit that subscribe button right now. The Cleveland Browns just witnessed an absolute meltdown that has their billionaire owner Jimmy Haslam seeing red, and what happened on that sideline during their devastating loss to the San Francisco 49ers might have just sealed Jerry Jeudy's fate with this franchise. Sources deep inside the organization are dropping bombshells right now, revealing that Haslam is absolutely done playing games after watching his $52 million receiver publicly humiliate rookie quarterback Shedeur on national television. We're talking about aggressive clapping in a young quarterback's face, standing over him like some kind of dictator and repeatedly barking, that's wrong," while cameras captured every single second of this toxic confrontation. The fallout from this incident is about to shake the entire Browns organization to its core, and what Jimmy Haslam is reportedly planning to do about it will leave you absolutely stunned. Let me paint the complete picture of what went down at Huntington Bank Field, because this situation is so much more explosive than just a heated moment between frustrated teammates. This goes straight to the heart of everything wrong with the Cleveland Browns right now, and it exposes a toxic dynamic that Jimmy Haslam absolutely will not tolerate in his organization. The Browns are trailing San Francisco in the fourth quarter of what is only Shedeur second career start in the National Football League. The rookie quarterback is sitting on the bench alongside offensive linemen, doing exactly what professional quarterbacks are supposed to do, studying plays on his Microsoft Surface tablet, trying to learn, trying to improve, trying to figure out how to attack one of the league's most dominant defenses. And then here comes Jerry Jeudy, walking over with pure attitude radiating off every inch of his body language. And what happens next is absolutely disgraceful. Jeudy starts clapping his hands aggressively right in Shedeur's face with the kind of disrespect that makes your blood boil just watching it. He's leaning over the seated quarterback in what can only be described as an intimidating, confrontational posture, and he's just absolutely going off on this kid. CBS cameras caught the entire confrontation, and the footage went viral within minutes, exploding across every social media platform imaginable. You can see Jeudy standing over Shedeur, barking at him with visible anger and frustration pouring out of every word. When Shedeur tries to defend himself, because that's what competitors do, because that's what any self-respecting athlete would do when being attacked by a teammate, Jeudy doesn't back down. He keeps repeating, that's wrong, like he's the one calling plays, like he's the offensive coordinator, like he has any right whatsoever to talk down to the guy who's throwing him the football. The disrespect was so blatant, so over the top, so completely out of line that veteran offensive lineman Ethan Posich literally had to step in and physically separate them. Think about that for 1 second. A massive offensive lineman had to play peacemaker because a $52 million receiver couldn't control his emotions and conduct himself like a professional. That right there tells you everything you need to know about Jerry Jeudy's character and mental state right now. But here's where this story gets absolutely brutal and exposes the massive hypocrisy behind Jeudy's sideline tirade. Let's talk about the actual statistics, because numbers don't lie, and Jerry Jeudy's numbers this season are absolutely embarrassing for someone making his kind of money. In Shedeur 2 career starts, Jerry Jeudy has recorded exactly 4 catches on 7 targets. That's a 57% catch rate, which is mediocre at best for a supposed number 1 receiver. But wait, it gets so much worse. He has 2 dropped passes in just 2 games with Shedeur as the quarterback. 2 drops in 2 games. And let's not forget about that ridiculous fumble last week where he caught the ball and got stripped from behind with absolutely zero awareness of his surroundings, costing the Browns valuable field position in a game they desperately needed to win. But here's the statistic that should make every single Browns fan absolutely furious. Through 10 games with Deshaun Watson and Jameis Winston serving as quarterbacks earlier this season, Jeudy had 28 catches with 8 drops. That's only 2.8 catches per game, which is absolutely pathetic production for your highest paid receiver the guy who's supposed to be your go-to target on third downs and in the red zone, the veteran who should be making plays when the game is on the line. But here's the million-dollar question that has Jimmy Haslam and everyone else in that organization scratching their heads in absolute confusion. We don't have any footage of Jeudy going at Deshaun Watson on the sideline like this. We don't have footage of him clapping in Jameis Winston's face when they were throwing interceptions and making terrible decisions. We don't have footage of him publicly disrespecting those veteran quarterbacks when they were struggling and the offense was completely sputtering. So why is he coming at Shedeur Sanders like this? Why is he targeting the rookie? Why is he attacking the young quarterback that Jimmy Haslam has publicly defended multiple times against national criticism? The answer reveals everything you need to know about Jeudy's character, and it's not a flattering picture whatsoever. This is a pattern of behavior that goes back years, and Browns fans absolutely need to understand the kind of person they're dealing with here. Let me give you some critical context about Jeudy that completely explains why he's acting this way towards Shedeur. This dude has a documented history of not being able to handle criticism, of letting his ego get in the way of his performance, and of attacking people instead of looking in the mirror and taking accountability for his own failures. Remember when Hall of Fame wide receiver Steve Smith called him out several years ago? Let me remind you of that legendary exchange, because it explains absolutely everything about Jeudy's character and why he's behaving this way. A few years back, Steve Smith was doing his podcast, Cut to It, and he was talking about wide receivers around the league who maybe hadn't shown up in the way people expected given their draft position and perceived talent level. The specific word Smith used to describe Jeudy was JAG, which stands for just a guy. Just an average wide receiver who was taken in the first round by the Denver Broncos, but wasn't producing anywhere near first-round talent levels. He wasn't making the impact plays. He wasn't becoming the #1 receiver his team desperately needed. He wasn't living up to the expectations that come with being a top draft pick. So when Steve Smith eventually saw Jeudy in person at an NFL event, Smith did what real men do. He tried to apologize face-to-face like a professional, like someone with integrity and class. Smith approached Jeudy and said something along the lines of, "Hey, I know I said some things in the past on my podcast that I probably shouldn't have said, and I want to apologize for that. I was harsh, and maybe I crossed a line." That's pure class right there. That's a Hall of Fame player. Someone who earned the respect of the entire league through his incredible career, being mature enough and secure enough to address his criticism directly and attempt to make amends. You know what Jeudy's response was? He cursed at Steve Smith. He said, "I don't mess with you," and repeated it with profanity. Straight up disrespected a Hall of Famer who was trying to show him respect and extend an olive branch. And Steve Smith, being the absolute legend that he is, being someone who never backed down from anyone during his playing career, didn't let it slide. He went right back at Jeudy on his podcast and said, "I'm sorry that I said you were a jag, just a guy, an average wide receiver that they used a first-round pick on that isn't doing anything. I hope today you actually show up in a way that you haven't showed up in the last couple years since they drafted you." Then Smith took it even further, delivering one of the most devastating critiques you'll ever hear about an NFL player. He said, "When teams call me and ask should they trade for you, should they invest in Jeudy, I will say no. Don't trade for Jeudy because he's mentally unable to handle constructive criticism from people who watch football and analyze the game professionally." Smith called him a Tier 3 receiver, not elite like Tyreek Hill or Justin Jefferson, not even good like the solid #2 receivers around the league, but Tier 3, basically replaceable. And you know what? Steve Smith was absolutely right, because here we are years later, and Jeudy is still showing that he cannot handle adversity. He's still demonstrating that when things aren't going well, instead of looking in the mirror and holding himself accountable, he wants to blame everybody else around him. Now let's talk about what actually happened in that 49ers game, because the context matters tremendously and reveals who really deserves the blame here. In the first quarter, Shedeur Sanders threw a deep ball downfield to Jeudy, that had a legitimate chance to be a touchdown or at minimum a huge chunk play that could have changed the momentum of the entire game. The ball was thrown deep. Jeudy had a step on his defender. He was in position to make a play, but the pass sailed just slightly out of reach and fell incomplete. Now, a lot of people who've watched the film multiple times are saying that if Jeudy had just kept running at full speed, if he had maintained his velocity and attacked the football aggressively, the ball would have landed right in his hands and stride for a massive gain. Instead, Jeudy slowed down his route. He decelerated instead of accelerating through his break, and the ball landed just beyond his reach. After the incompletion, you can clearly see Jeudy on the sideline shaking his head, throwing his hands up in frustration, and making it painfully obvious through his body language that he thought it was Shedeur's fault. But here's what Jerry Jeudy either doesn't understand or refuses to acknowledge. There was significant wind in that game affecting the flight of the football. Shedeur himself admitted after the game in his press conference that wind was absolutely a factor in some of his throws. He said, and I'm quoting him directly here, "All quarterbacks know you got to cut through the wind whenever you throw. I was just calculated off. It was just a miss. It was just a missed shot. And when I missed that shot, I got to stay on myself to keep shooting." That right there is accountability. That's a rookie quarterback who just played his second NFL game taking full responsibility for a throw that didn't connect. He's not making excuses. He's not blaming the wind completely. He's not pointing fingers at his receiver for slowing down. He's saying, "I missed and I need to be better." That's the mark of a leader. That's the mentality of a franchise quarterback. And that's exactly what Jimmy Haslam wants to see from the player he's invested in and defended publicly. But where is Jerry Jeudy's accountability? Where is his admission that maybe he could have run his route better? That maybe he could have adjusted to the ball in flight? That maybe as a veteran receiver making $52 million, he should be able to make those difficult catches that change games? Instead of owning his part in the disconnect, Jeudy spent the entire game frustrated, sulking, and eventually exploding on his own quarterback. His final stat line? 3 catches for 26 yards. That's it. That's all he produced in a game where his team desperately needed playmakers to step up against one of the NFL's best defenses. Then, at the start of the fourth quarter, when the Browns are trailing and desperately need offense, when they need veteran leadership and everyone pulling in the same direction, Jeudy decides to walk over to Shedeur and start a public confrontation that gets captured by every camera in the stadium. The specific play that upset Jeudy was a 3-and-out possession that gained just 1 measly yard. It concluded with Shedeur failing to connect with Jeudy on a mid-range route over the middle. And instead of letting the coaches handle it, instead of waiting until they got back to the locker room and pulling Shedeur aside privately to talk through the play and figure out where the communication broke down, Jeudy made it public. He made it a spectacle. He embarrassed his quarterback on national television in front of millions of viewers. That's not veteran leadership. That's not professionalism. That's pure selfishness and ego run amok. Now, here's where Jimmy Haslam enters this story in a major way and why sources are saying he's absolutely furious about what transpired on that sideline. The Browns owner has been incredibly vocal about supporting Shedeur Sanders ever since draft day, even when it wasn't popular, even when people were questioning the pick, even when analysts and former executives were suggesting he forced the selection on his football operations staff, when Eric Mangini and others in the media suggested that Haslam forced the Shedeur pick on general manager Andrew Berry and head coach Kevin Stefanski, that the GM and coach didn't actually want him but were overruled by ownership, Haslam went public to shut that narrative down immediately. He said, and this is important, "We have a good process here. At the end of the day, that's Andrew Berry's call. Andrew made the call to pick Shedeur." Haslam was defending his general manager and defending the organizational process, but he was also defending Shedeur by making it crystal clear that the entire organization believed in him, that this wasn't some rogue owner decision, that everyone was on board with bringing this young quarterback to Cleveland. Then in October, when Diana Rossini from The Athletic asked Haslam about all the noise and criticism surrounding Shedeur Sanders and why he wasn't playing earlier in the season, Haslam said something incredibly revealing. He said, "Listen, he's a serious football player, and inside the building there's no noise. He comes to work every single day just like everybody else, and he's trying to get better as a football player. That's all that matters to us." That's an owner standing up for his quarterback. That's an owner saying, "I don't care what the media thinks. I don't care what the fans on social media are saying. I don't care about the outside narratives. This kid is doing everything right inside our building, and that's what we evaluate him on." So imagine how Jimmy Haslam feels sitting in his owner's box, watching Jeudy, a guy the Browns are paying $52.5 million over 3 years, with $41 million fully guaranteed, publicly disrespecting that same quarterback on the sideline. The same quarterback Haslam has defended publicly multiple times. The same quarterback the organization invested a draft pick in. The same quarterback they believe can be the answer to decades of futility at the most important position in football. Sources with direct knowledge of the situation are saying that after the game ended, Haslam had heated conversations with both Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski about the incident. He wanted to know why Jeudy felt comfortable attacking Shedeur like that. He wanted to know what the coaching staff planned to do about it. He wanted to know what accountability measures would be put in place. And most importantly, he wanted to make it absolutely clear that this kind of behavior, this kind of toxic, selfish, me-first attitude isn't acceptable in his organization. Here's the reality that Browns fans need to understand right now. Jeudy is supposed to be the leader of that receiving corps. He's the veteran. He's the guy who's played in big games. He's the Pro Bowl caliber player when he's performing at his best. He's the guy making by far the most money among the receivers. But instead of lifting Shedeur up, instead of helping the rookie develop and gain confidence, instead of being the professional veteran presence that young quarterbacks desperately need, he's tearing him down. He's creating division.